Hello, everybody. Welcome along. We are back for the first live stream. Would you believe? In 6 weeks, it is the big kickoff on Friday, and we are going to Q&A it. And you can see Mr. Matt SB is with me as well. How are you doing, fellow Championship YouTuber? Are you like me? Are you like a kid on Christmas Eve this week?
Yes, I certainly am. Honestly, it's the must be one of the shortest summers we've had in the EFL, with obviously it starting early because of the World Cup. But I tell you what, it's felt like one of the longest. I can't wait for the ball to get rolling on Friday night with Huddersfield versus Burnley.
AJ, who has had the strongest window so far? When I was doing this, Matt, I liked Sunderland, I liked Millwall, and I liked West Brom picking up those two big free agents. What say you?
Yeah, there's certainly been some clubs like Cardiff City, for example, have been busy. I think for me, it's the quality over the quantity, and I would agree with what you said on West Bromwich Albion. I'd say for me, they're probably the number one with Wallace and John Swift for me, because obviously John Swift was up there with some of the top players in the Championship last season. So West Bromwich Albion in terms of quality, Millwall with some good names as well, Afobe, Honeyman, Zian Fleming. So
that's going to be an interesting one, isn't it?
Yeah, that could be decent. I've always liked Luton Town's business. I think Luton Town always bring in some good players. So
that's just a given now, isn't it? That Luton are going to do good business, isn't it?
Yeah. So bit disappointed with Coventry. I know this wasn't the question, but we might come on to them a bit later. But a bit quiet. But sometimes just holding on to players might be the way forwards.
Looks like Coventry are going to be one of these clubs that are going to fall a little bit victim to the fact that the transfer window hasn't been moved back, but kickoff has been moved back, and you've got these potential three big players, and you're kind of waiting almost for one of them to go to then retool, and it can, that can not be a good thing sometimes. Evening, Gary, John, would you both agree this is one of the most open championships on paper? A number of teams that ended last season have recruited well this summer, and for me, the relegated teams are weaker. I agree and I disagree with John there, Matt. I agree the relegated teams are weaker, and Norwich don't have Buendia this time, which was just a guarantee, wasn't it? And, there's a couple of rookie managers in at Burnley and Watford. But when I was totting everything up, got those 5 parachute teams in Middlesbrough, I think are going to be, if that goes well and they're all competent, I think it will be competitive. Because last season we didn't have a kind of top 6, did we? We had a top 2 and then Forest sort of joining on at the end. For me, a strong championship is like 2018-19, where the whole top 6 is good and everybody's, lots of good teams in there. So I would agree with John that maybe the 3-year 1 parachute teams, are a little bit dodgier than Fulham were amazing last year, weren't they? But I think it might be quite strong. What do you think, Matt? Do you agree with me or John?
Yeah, I don't know if you agree with me, but when it came to doing my championship predictions, when I was sort of looking at the top half or even down to halfway down the bottom half, I found there was, for me, the sort of top 5 or 6, which obviously includes the parachute payment teams and Middlesbrough, to be honest, which I think are, your favourites. And then the playoff battle, obviously, because obviously a team that finishes in the playoffs can get promoted. For me, that was almost impossible to predict. So for me, there was like 2 boxes. You have your parachute payments and Middlesbrough, and obviously it's unpredictable. You will have a team that just jumps in there randomly.
And someone will crash and burn one of those rich teams as well.
Last season it was Huddersfield who finished 3rd, but like you say, it's very different to last season. I think all 3 of the relegated teams for me they've got to get in that top 6. I mean, they won't all necessarily, but they'll be the favourites. And then, like you say, your Middlesbrough, Sheffield United, West Bromwich Albion, they're your top 5 or 6. And then the battle for maybe 5th or 6th place, there'll be teams chasing that. I think you got Coventry, Swansea, Mill, Luton, even Huddersfield again maybe. I think it's really hard after that top 6 for me.
I agree. I think it opened up last year because, and it's not to say that rich clubs aren't well run, but I kind of categorise them as the rich clubs, and then I'd have Huddersfield, Luton, Millwall were well run last year, and then Forest just went on a tear, didn't they? I think for the sort of well-run, not as wealthy teams, a Millwall or a Luton who you'd expect to be around, it could glass ceiling off. But like West Brom last year, crashed and burned completely, didn't they? So you never know. Someone could do that, fire the manager, and ho, ho, ho. Keep your questions coming in, guys. We haven't done this for a while. Which of the relegated clubs could struggle the most to make the top 6? For me, And it's only because I don't know what Company's going to be like, but I've got them. I'm the most unsure about Burnley just because they've been out of it for a while. But when I look and I see Rodriguez and Vidra, I think McNeil and Cornet are also on the way out, but there should be some Brownhill, etc. There should be some long in the tooth players who might be able to carry Company. What do you say, Burnley?
Yeah, I'd say Burnley. They're the lowest in my my predictions for the season. I think with Burnley, though, we could find that we're absolutely wrong with this and they do really well. I just think it's probably the obvious choice with such a big change, obviously, with so many big players going out. I do certainly think they brought in some good players. I think Company could obviously do well. He did well with Anderlecht, but he's very new to the Championship, might find his feet. Scott Twine's a good signing, and I think Company's obviously got the pull from Manchester City, so they've been bringing in a couple of youngsters there. They're trying to get Callum O'Hare, but hands off. I think Burnley are probably the team I'm most unsure about, so therefore default they're my pick.
And unsure is not to say that. I remember Jean Tigana with Fulham were like, what's he going to be like? Bam, won the first 10 games or something.
Yeah.
Away they go into the distance. Which team will draw the most matches this season? Should we just both say Millwall and move on from that one? Who do you think will be this season's top scorer? I suppose we can riff on that. Immediately my brain goes to Teemu Pukki. I wonder if Rhian Brewster will get it together and look like I know people probably scoff in the comments of that. We see the Swansea Brewster at Sheffield United. What are you thinking on top scorers, Matt? Riff a bit, and I'll bring up the odds on the screen.
Well, last time I looked, Teemu Pukki was the favourite, obviously, with his track record in the Championship and being at Norwich, where he'll obviously get some good service. I think. I don't. This isn't for top scorer, but I feel like Ross Stewart coming up from Sunderland could have a really good season. He did obviously in League One. Looking at last season, Joel Perreault, I think he'll have another good season.
Let me dive in, Matt. I'm going to read them out. Pukki's favourite, Pirro, you just mentioned, Brereton, Dwight Gale's on there. Old habits die hard. Daryl DK, Michael Obafemi, Carlin Grant, João Pedro, Bayo for Watford. That might be interesting. Emmanuel Dennis is on there, but I doubt he's still going to be at the club. Other than Paul Ince, who's the first manager out the door? Speaking of out the door, I think Matt's gone out the door at the moment. Kate, that's a tricky one. Managers, I mean, Nigel Pearson is never far away from spontaneously combusting. And I don't want this to be the case, but the Potsos can obviously be very impatient. I think Paul Ince is you would hope John Eustace at Birmingham gets some time given all the sort of chaos there. I obviously you don't want to be predicting any managers to lose their job, Matt, but someone will be gone. And let me put this as an addendum on the question. I wonder whether the World Cup will either delay things and people will wait until November, because let's be honest, there's always 4 or 5 gone by November, and that's just the way it is. And there's normally half the league gone. Anyone you think who's it's sort of walking on broken glass already?
Obviously, with this question, I look to my teams in the relegation battle for my predictions and just sort of think, obviously, Rotherham have stood by Paul Warne for a long time, so even if they do struggle this season, I think they will stand by him. Another team people are putting to have a poor season is Birmingham, but like you say, Eustace, they should at least give him some time. With Reading and Paul Ince, I think he's earned the chance to obviously do what he can do this season after what he did last year, because he kept them up, and it was tight, to be fair. It wouldn't surprise me if Watford are the first to make a sacking this season, to be honest, though.
It'd be so brutal. They should put that in his contract. He has to have until the end of the season. But there you go. Parker seems to be setting us up for counter-attacking football with Tavernier and Rodwell. This is a Bournemouth comment from Will. Who will score the first goal in the Championship 22? Right, we can get this down to 2 teams because Huddersfield and Burnley play on Friday night.
Good question.
Huddersfield set play then. A Huddersfield centre-half maybe, or a Scott Twine free kick or something like that. What do you think, Matt?
I was just going to pluck Scott Twine out. I think I've put my prediction out as a 1-1 draw for this. I think that'd be an interesting game. Obviously, both so close to being in the Premier League last season, with Burnley just going down and Huddersfield just not going up. I think it's a really exciting first game. And I expect not masses of goals, but I do expect there to be a goal or two in this one. So, I'd say Scott Twine for me. It'd probably be the bookies' favourites for that as well.
Brian, Coventry done well so far to hold on the top players. Will be interesting Sunday. Stadium Alive, what's your thoughts, Matt? I know your predictions are out already. And can you parlay this into a bit about Sunderland? Because Sunderland are not a normal club coming up from League One, are they? That is a big fan base and a big club with lots of expectation.
Yeah, Coventry in recent history have got a good record against Sunderland, whether you want to put that into consideration or not. I've gone for a 2-2 draw. I think, obviously, we're all going to have to go away to the Stadium of Light at some point. I think the first game of the season is not really how I would have planned it, because there's going to be this massive buzz. It's obviously on the Sunday and it's at 12 o'clock, which is a bit inconvenient for the Coventry fans going. I've said a draw. I think Coventry have obviously got a bit more championship experience, but Sunderland are going to be a massive club and obviously expect them to be higher in the table than maybe the quality of their team shows, just because of that fan base roaring them on.
Matt, do you just want to give a quick plug for your channel and your Patreon, where people can find you on Instagram and Twitter if people are not familiar with you?
Yeah, no, of course. It's Matt SB for anyone tuned in that hasn't seen me. Obviously do football content on YouTube as well. Similar to Ben's in a way, do Championship predominantly, but I'm branching out to doing a bit of Premier League, League One, League Two. And I've got a Patreon as well. So if you look at my channel, you're interested, do feel free to sign up to that and support me financially, because I've not long gone full-time on it. But I appreciate you having me on today, Ben.
And I'll very much in Matt's corner. I know how hard this game is. So if you have got room to support me as well as Matt, please do so.